when a local bank mysteriously shutters its doors, swallowing the life savings of an entire community. A young boy named Rithvik refuses to stay silent. While the police stall and the government investigates, Rithvik uncovers a clue that leads him to a tall, masked vigilant named Ashok. But the robber isn't who he seems. Ashok and his four elite shadows aren't stealing for greed, they are reclaiming wealth from a generation that abandoned their own parents. Targeting only those who discarded their elders to old age homes, the crew uses the stolen loot to fund a sanctuary for the forgotten. Let's dive into watch. Rithvik stood before the cold, glass doors of Sham's bank, staring at the ATM slip. His hard-earned deposit wasn't reflecting in his account. When he questioned the tellers, they offered nothing but a hollow promise. A technical glitch, kid. We've raised a ticket. Check back in 3 days. But 3 days later, the glitch had transformed into a nightmare. A rusted iron shutter was pulled down tight, bearing a hastily spray-painted sign. Operations closed temporarily. Outside, a sea of frantic people screamed for their life savings, their voices cracking with desperation. The air was thick with the scent of rain and panic. Rithvik approached a weary security guard, but the man only shrugged. My shift just started, kid. I know as much as you do, which is nothing. As the sun set, the local police arrived, not with answers, but with batons to disperse the crowd. Give us 24 hours, the inspector shouted over the sirens. But 24 hours turned into 48, and the police station became a fortress of silence. While the town sunk into despair, Rithvik felt a spark of defiance. He wasn't going to wait for a government that seemed to be moving in slow motion. Rithvik's investigation began at a supermarket overlooking the bank. He begged to see the CCTV footage, but the manager scoffed, demanding a police warrant he didn't have. Undeterred, Rithvik returned to the alleyways behind the bank at midnight. The street lamps flickered like dying stars. In the mud, something caught the light. A single, sleek earbud. He picked it up, cleaned it, and synced it to his phone. Suddenly, a notification flashed. Find my device active. Miles away, a masked man stared at his own phone in a cold sweat. The hunter was now being tracked by the prey. The masked man, a shadow in a black tactical jacket, realized his mistake instantly. He had two choices: destroy the evidence or find the boy holding it. He chose the latter, beginning a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek through the city's veins. Meanwhile, Rithvik was deep in the slums, bribing a ragged informant with a pack of cigarettes and a 500-rupee note. The beggar's eyes widened at the sight of the earbud. I saw him, the man rasped. Tall, dressed in shadows. 4 men in a windowless van took him. It looked like a kidnapping, but they moved like they were practiced. A kidnapping? Rithvik whispered, his heart hammering against his ribs. The beggar let out a haunting cackle. The masked man had a bag. Boy. A bag so heavy it dragged in the dirt. Maybe it was filled with stones. Or maybe it was the bank's soul. A sarcastic laugh. Just as the beggar vanished into the shadows, Rithvik felt a prickle on the back of his neck. Someone was watching. In a fit of frustrated paranoia, he smashed the earbud against a brick wall. In a dark room across town, a GPS signal blinked once and went dark. The masked man growled. He had lost the trail. The following morning, the atmosphere turned clinical. High-ranking federal agents swarmed the bank, cordoning off the area with yellow tape and heavy-duty barricades. The local police were given an ultimatum: find the culprits in 24 hours or face immediate suspension. The pressure was a pressure cooker about to blow. Rithvik, hidden in the shadows of a nearby rooftop, watched as the experts found nothing. The CCTV wires had been professionally fried, and the vault showed no signs of a forced entry. It was a ghost heist. Hungry and exhausted, Rithvik slipped past a sleeping guard and ducked into a small, nondescript canteen. When he paid for his meal, the cashier handed him his change. Rithvik froze. The notes were crisp, sequential, and smelled of fresh ink, mint-condition currency that shouldn't be in a greasy spoon diner. Where did these come from? He demanded. The cashier pointed toward the door. A tall man in a hoodie. Just left. He bought 10 parcels of food. Rithvik didn't finish his meal. He sprinted into the rain, following a trail of heavy boot prints in the mud. The footprints led him away from the city's greed and into the serene gates of Golden Hearts and Old Age Home. Inside, the atmosphere was a sharp contrast to the chaos at the bank. Grannies and grandpas sat in the sun, laughing. In the center of the courtyard stood the tall man, distributing sweets and medicine. An elderly woman touched Rithvik's arm. Is he a saint? Rithvik asked, confused. Better, she whispered. He is a son to those of us who are discarded like trash. He provides when no one else will. Rithvik's suspicion didn't waver. He followed the man, whose name he discovered was Ashok, onto a bus headed for Chennai. He watched from 3 rows back as Ashok met 4 men in a crowded mall. They didn't look like kidnappers. They looked like brothers in arms. The 5 of them disappeared into a dilapidated warehouse. Rithvik waited until the moon was high, watching as they donned black masks and checked their watches. They weren't finished. They were heading now to different bank for a second strike. Not on my watch, Rithvik hissed. He reached the bank just as Ashok's team neutralized the security with a sedative spray and cut the internal feeds. While the 4 accomplices managed the perimeter from the van, Ashok entered the vault. In a moment of sheer adrenaline, Rithvik slammed the heavy exterior bolts of the bank's reinforced doors and chained them shut. Thief! Thief! He screamed into the night. The neighborhood woke up in a roar. The van outside screeched away, abandoning their leader. Ashok was trapped. The police arrived in a flurry of blue and red lights. They dragged a silent, masked Ashok out of the bank in handcuffs. The crowd cheered for Rithvik, the boy hero who had caught the monster. But inside the interrogation room, the monster didn't look afraid. He looked at the lead investigator and smiled a chillingly calm smile. I took the money, Ashok confessed freely. The first kidnapping was a staged play to throw you off. My friends and I are a team. We took every last note. The investigator slammed his fist on the table. Why? To live like kings while these people starve? Ashok leaned forward, his eyes burning with a strange fire. Are you married, Inspector? Do you live with your parents? The inspector scoffed. I have my own family to worry about. My parents are in a village. Ashok laughed, a sound devoid of mirth. Exactly. You and every person who had an account in that bank share a common sin. You treat your elders as burdens. The people I robbed are the ones who threw their mothers and fathers into the streets. Ashok began his Kutti story. He spoke of a childhood spent in old age homes, watching his parents serve those whom society had forgotten. He spoke of the vow he made at 12 years old to never let a silver-haired soul go hungry. We worked hard, Ashok said, his voice cracking for the first time. But hard work doesn't feed 100 mouths. So, we targeted the righteous middle class who save for their children's futures while letting their parents rot in silence. The government will insure their losses. The people will get their money back eventually. But the lesson? That stays forever. The court was unmoved by his philosophy. Ashok and his 4 friends were sentenced to 5 years of rigorous imprisonment and a massive fine. Rithvik watched as they were led away, feeling a strange hollowness in his chest. He had his money back, but the old age home Golden Hearts soon began to struggle without its secret benefactor. The hero had won, but the god was in a cell. 3 years passed. The world had moved on until a news flash broke across international screens. A high-tech, bloodless heist had just occurred at a major bank in Singapore. The signature was unmistakable. 5 masked men, a flawless getaway, and a series of anonymous donations made to local shelters within the hour. The cycle had begun again. Ashok hadn't been broken by the system. He had simply gone global. Ashok's final warning had become a haunting headline. care for your parents, or I will take your wealth. To him, money was meaningless without the roots of family. Yet the greedy continued to trade their parents for the cold walls of nursing homes. When the great heist finally came, Ashok stripped the heartless bear and vanished into the shadows. Whether he is a hero or a villain remains a question for the law. But to the forgotten elderly, he was a man sent by God.